The sound of the slap echoed through the reception hall. Conversations stopped, music faltered, and 200 pairs of eyes turned to witness my father's hand across my face. My mother gasped, more concerned about the scene we were causing than my staining cheek. "You selfish little brat," my father hissed, his face red with rage. "After everything we've done for you." I touched my cheek, tasting blood where my lip had split. My carefully applied makeup was probably ruined, but I couldn't bring myself to care. I was too busy processing the absurdity of what had just happened. My name is Victoria Chen, and at 29, I'd just been assaulted by my father at my brother James's wedding because I refused to give up my penthouse to the happy couple. James and Anna need a proper home to start their family, my mother had insisted minutes earlier, cornering me by the dessert table. "Your penthouse is perfect, and you're just one person. Be reasonable, Victoria." The penthouse they wanted me to give up was my pride and joy. I'd buy it with my own money, earned from years of working 60-hour weeks as a software developer. While James bounced between failed business ventures, living off our parents' generosity, I built something for myself. "No," I said again, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. "The penthouse is mine. I bought it. I pay for it. James and Anna can find their own place." That's when my father stepped in, his face flushed from too much champagne and self-righteousness. "This isn't a request, Victoria. Your brother is the man of the family now. He needs this." The man of the family, of course. James had always been the golden child, even when he was failing. His latest venture, a cryptocurrency startup, had collapsed spectacularly last month, taking his investors' money with it. But somehow, I was the unreasonable one for not wanting to hand over my home. "The answer is still no," I replied, keeping my voice low. "And if you bring this up again, I'm leaving." That's when he slapped me. Now, standing in the sudden silence of the reception hall, I saw everything clearly for the first time. My mother's performative concern, my father's entitled rage, and James, dear, precious James, smirking from his seat at the head table. Even his new wife, Anna, looked smugly satisfied, as if my humiliation was exactly what she hoped for. I straightened my spine, looked my father directly in the eye, and smiled. "You'll regret this," I said, my voice carrying in the silence. "All of you will." Then I turned and walked out, my heels clicking against the marble floor, leaving chaos in my wake. I could hear my mother calling after me, probably worried about what the country club members would say, but I didn't stop. In my car, I finally let the tears fall, but they weren't tears of sadness. I was angry. No, I was furious. Years of being the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who never asked for handouts, and this was my reward. Being slapped and humiliated because I wouldn't give my home to my freeloading brother. My phone started buzzing with messages. "Mom, come back inside. You're embarrassing us." "James, don't be dramatic, sis. We can talk about this." "Anna, your brother deserves that penthouse more than you." "Dad, you will give James the keys tomorrow. This isn't a discussion." I turned off my phone and started driving. Not home. I couldn't face the penthouse right now. Instead, I headed to the one place I could think clearly, the small coffee shop where I'd spent countless hours coding and planning my future. The barista Mike took one look at my face and brought over my usual order without asking. "Bad day?" "My father slapped me at my brother's wedding because I wouldn't give them my penthouse," I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. Mike's eyes widened. "Your penthouse? The one you worked 3 years of overtime to buy?" I nodded, sipping my coffee. Apparently, my brother needs it more than I do. He's the man of the family, after all. "That's insane," Mike said, sliding a chocolate muffin across the table. "On the house. You look like you need it." As I sat there, watching the sunset through the cafe window, a plan started forming in my mind. My family thought they could bully me into submission. They thought I'd roll over and give up everything I'd worked for. They had no idea what I was capable of. I pulled out my laptop and started typing. First, emails to my lawyer and financial advisor. Then, a series of code commits to my private GitHub repository. Finally, a call to my real estate agent. "Remember that oceanfront property we discussed?" I asked when she answered. "I'm ready to make an offer." By the time I finished my coffee, the foundation of my revenge was laid. My family wanted to take my home. Let them try. But they were about to learn that the quiet, accommodating daughter they took for granted had disappeared the moment my father's hand met my cheek. This was war, and I intended to win. The next morning, my parents showed up at my penthouse unannounced. My father stormed past the doorman, who'd already called to warn me they were coming. I met them at my door, dressed for success in my best power suit, laptop in hand. "Where are you going?" my mother demanded as I locked my door. "We need to talk about what happened." "Work," I replied simply, walking past them toward the elevator. "Some of us actually have jobs." "Don't you dare take that tone," my father growled, grabbing my arm. "After your behavior yesterday." I yanked my arm away, my voice ice cold. "Touch me again, and I'll have security escort you out." And yes, I have video of yesterday's assault. The country club's cameras caught everything. That stopped them both short. My mother's face paled. "You wouldn't?" "Try me." The elevator arrived and I stepped in. "Oh, and change the locks all you want. I've already moved everything valuable to secure storage." The doors closed on their shocked faces. I waited until I was in my car before letting out a shaky breath. Phase 1 of my plan was in motion. Over the next week, I ignored their calls and messages, which grew increasingly hostile. James sent flying monkeys, mutual friends and relatives trying to reason with me. Anna posted passive-aggressive social media updates about selfish people who don't support family. I stayed silent and kept working. What they didn't know was that I'd been preparing for something like this for years. Not this exact scenario. I never expected my father to actually hit me, but I'd always known they'd try to take what was mine eventually. That's why I had receipts for everything. Every penny I'd earned, every bill I'd paid, every improvement I'd made to the penthouse. I had security cameras in every room, backup codes for every lock, and most importantly, I had leverage. You see, during those years of being the responsible daughter, I'd also been the family tech support. I'd set up everyone's computers, phones, and email accounts. I had access to everything, including James's business records. On day 10 of radio silence, my mother tried a new approach. She showed up at my office with tears in her eyes. "Your father is sorry," she said, settling uninvited into the chair across from my desk. "He was just upset. You know how he gets when he's worried about James." Worried about James? I kept typing, not looking up. Or worried about what James' investors might do when they find out where their money really went. Her sharp intake of breath told me I hit a nerve. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said carefully. "No," I finally looked at her. "So you don't know about the offshore accounts? The shell companies? The consulting fees James paid to Dad's business?" The color drained from her face. "How did you?" "I'm very good at what I do, Mom." "Did you really think I wouldn't notice when James used my old coding projects in his crypto scam?" "It wasn't a scam," she protested weakly. "He just made some mistakes." "Fraud isn't a mistake. It's a crime." I turned my laptop around, showing her the documents I'd compiled, and Dad helped him do it. She stared at the screen, her hands trembling. "What do you want?" "I want to be left alone. No more demands, no more flying monkeys, no more social media drama. The penthouse is mine, end of discussion. And if we refuse?" I smiled, the same smile I'd given them at the wedding. "Then these documents go to the SEC, along with the video of Dad assaulting me. I'm sure the investors would be very interested in where their money went." "You destroy your own family?" Her voice cracked. "You did that when you demanded I give up my home. When Dad hit me. When James smirked about it." I turned the laptop back around. "I'm done being a family doormat." She left without another word, but I knew this wasn't over. They'd be angry, desperate even. But I had one more card to play. That evening, I received a call from my real estate agent. The oceanfront property, a luxury apartment complex I'd been eyeing for months, was mine. The same complex where James and Anna had been hoping to rent their dream apartment. I logged into my private GitHub repository and pushed the final changes to my latest project, a property management system I'd been developing on the side. The same system James had tried to steal for his failed startup. My phone buzzed with a text from James. "Mom told me what you're doing. You can't prove anything." I smiled, sending back a single screenshot of his private server logs. His next message came quickly. "What do you want?" "Distance," I replied. "Complete and total. No contact, no demands, no family obligations. The penthouse and my life are off limits." And if I refuse, then I own your dream apartment complex, have proof of your fraud, and enough documentation to bury both you and Dad. Your choice. The typing indicator appeared and disappeared several times before his response came through. You've changed. No, I wrote back. I just stopped pretending to be who you wanted me to be. I put my phone on silent and walked out onto my penthouse balcony, watching the city lights flicker to life. The sun was setting on the family I'd known, but I felt lighter than I had in years. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about finally, truly becoming yourself. 3 months after the wedding incident, I sat in my penthouse living room, sipping coffee and reviewing tenant applications for my oceanfront complex. The property was proving to be an excellent investment, especially after I implemented my management system. My phone buzzed with a notification. James and Anna had been evicted from their luxury rental after failing to pay rent for 2 months. I wasn't surprised. Without Dad's financial support, which had dried up since my revelations about their fraud, they were finally facing reality. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. Through the security camera, I saw my father standing there, looking older than I remembered. For a moment, I considered ignoring him, but curiosity won out. What do you want? I asked through the intercom. 5 minutes, Victoria. Please. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. He stood there, shifting uncomfortably, his usual confidence nowhere to be seen. James and Anna are moving back home, he said finally. The apartment, they couldn't afford it. I know, I own the building. His head snapped up, eyes widening. You? But how? Because I'm good at what I do, Dad. I always was. You just never noticed. He seemed to deflate, leaning against the doorframe. Your mother misses you. We all do. No, I corrected him. You miss having someone to push around. Someone to sacrifice everything for James. That person doesn't exist anymore. I was wrong, he said quietly, about everything. The slap, the demands, protecting James. I've lost everything because of it. It was true. After my threats of exposure, he'd been forced to step down from his company's board. His reputation in the business community was in tatters, though I'd never actually released the documents. The threat had been enough. You haven't lost everything, I said. You still have your golden child. Isn't that what matters? Victoria, please. We're family. Family? I laughed. Family doesn't demand someone give up their home. Family doesn't hit you in public. Family doesn't smirk while watching it happen. He flinched at each point, but I wasn't done. You know what I realized after the wedding? I've never needed any of you. Every success I've had, every achievement was in spite of you, not because of you. I know, he whispered. I know that now. I studied him. This man who'd loomed so large in my life, who'd seemed so powerful and intimidating. Now he just looked small. 5 minutes are up, I said, starting to close the door. Wait. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. Your mother wanted you to have this. It's an invitation to her birthday dinner next week. We would really like you to come. I took the envelope but didn't open it. I'll think about it. After he left, I sat on my balcony, turning the invitation over in my hands. Part of me wanted to throw it away, to maintain the distance I'd worked so hard to establish. But another part, a stronger part, knew that true victory wasn't in perpetual estrangement. It was in having the power to choose my own terms. The following week, I did attend my mother's birthday dinner. I arrived late and left early, speaking little but observing much. James and Anna sat in sullen silence, their designer clothes replaced by department store brands. My father stayed sober, watching his words carefully. My mother tried too hard, her smile brittle with anxiety. They were all walking on eggshells, afraid of the power I now held. But I had no interest in wielding it like a weapon. Instead, I used it as a shield, protecting the life I'd built for myself. Over the following months, a new family dynamic emerged. They learned to respect my boundaries, to accept that I wouldn't be their safety net anymore. James and Anna found modest jobs and a small apartment they could actually afford. My father stayed involved but distant, sending occasional emails about business opportunities he thought might interest me. My mother took longer to adjust, still trying to play peacemaker, still hoping for the daughter she'd always wanted me to be. But eventually, she too learned to accept the woman I actually was. 1 year after the wedding, I hosted a small dinner party in my penthouse. Not for family, but for the people who truly supported me. Mike from the coffee shop, who'd given me space to plan my revenge over countless cups of coffee. My real estate agent, who'd helped me secure my newest investment. My lawyer, who'd protected my interests without question. As we enjoyed dinner on my balcony, watching the sunset paint the city in gold, Mike raised his glass. To Victoria, he said, who turned a slap into an empire. I smiled, thinking about how that moment of public humiliation had led to this, not just financial success, but true independence. The ability to set boundaries, to demand respect, to live life on my own terms. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting better, stronger, wiser. And sometimes it's about learning that the family you choose can be more valuable than the family you're born into. I raised my glass to join the toast, finally at peace with all of it. The slap, the demands, the aftermath. They had tried to take my home, but instead they'd given me my freedom. And that was worth more than any penthouse. You ungrateful brat. My father's voice boomed across our backyard as my graduation party turned into a nightmare. Your sister needs that inheritance more than you do. She has dreams, ambitions. My name is Emma Sullivan, and at 22, I watched my father burn my hard-earned engineering diploma while my mother nodded approvingly and my sister Amanda smirked from behind them. The flames consumed 4 years of sleepless nights, perfect grades, and relentless determination. I worked for this, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Grandpa left that money to me for a reason. Your sister's art gallery won't fund itself, Mom chimed in, as if Amanda's latest whims somehow outweighed my grandfather's final wishes. You already have a job lined up. You don't need the inheritance. I looked around at our gathered family members, most avoiding eye contact, some recording the drama on their phones. Only my grandfather's sister, Aunt Margaret, met my gaze with a knowing look. The irony wasn't lost on me. While I'd spent 4 years earning my degree, maintaining a 4.0 GPA, and securing a position at a prestigious engineering firm, Amanda had bounced between 5 different passions. Art gallery owner was just her latest dream, right after failed attempts at becoming a yoga instructor, social media influencer, professional organizer, and lifestyle coach. The inheritance is mine, I stated firmly. Grandpa specifically left it to me in his will. Dad stepped closer, the ashes of my diploma scattered at his feet. We're your parents. We know what's best. Sign the papers transferring the inheritance to Amanda, or you're no longer part of this family. I thought about my grandfather's last words to me, spoken in the quiet of his hospital room 3 months ago. Stay sharp, little fox, he'd said, using his old nickname for me. Watch everything carefully. You'll know when to strike. At the time, I hadn't understood what he meant. Now, watching my father's face turn purple with rage, my mother's practiced look of disappointment, and Amanda's poorly concealed greed, it all made sense. No, I said simply. The slap came fast, my father's hand connecting with my cheek before anyone could react. The party guests gasped. Someone dropped a glass. My mother covered her mouth in fake shock while Amanda's smirk grew wider. Then get out, Dad spat. You're no daughter of mine. I touched my stinging cheek, then smiled. They all stepped back, unsettled by my calm reaction. Okay, I said, turning to leave. See you at the lawyer's office next week. What lawyer's office? Amanda's voice cracked slightly, her smirk faltering. I didn't answer, just walked away as my father shouted threats behind me. Aunt Margaret caught up with me at my car. You knew this would happen, she said, not a question, but a statement. I nodded, opening my car door. Grandpa warned me, said they'd show their true colors once the inheritance deadline got close. She smiled, patting my arm. George always said you were the sharp one. Did you get everything documented? I gestured to my cousin Michael, who was walking toward us holding his phone. Got it all on video, he confirmed. The threats, the diploma burning, the slap. Everything. Good, Aunt Margaret said. They have no idea what's coming, do they? I started my car, thinking about the meeting scheduled for next week. About the real will, the one my parents hadn't seen yet. About my grandfather's careful planning and the lessons he taught me about patience and timing. No, I replied, they don't. That night, I stayed at Aunt Margaret's house, my phone buzzing constantly with messages from relatives. Some condemned my selfishness. Others expressed shock at my father's behavior. Amanda sent a series of taunting texts about how she'd redecorate my childhood bedroom once I was gone. I ignored them all, instead reviewing the documents my grandfather had left with his lawyer. The inheritance wasn't just money, it was controlling interest in the family company, the house my parents lived in, and several other properties. My parents had only seen the preliminary will, the one that mentioned a simple trust fund. They had no idea that my grandfather, tired of watching them favor Amanda while dismissing my achievements, had spent his final years restructuring everything. Sometimes, he told me, people need to lose everything to appreciate what they had. As I prepared for bed, Aunt Margaret brought me some tea. Your grandfather would be proud, she said. He always said you had his spirit, the patience to wait for the right moment. I thought about the family meeting scheduled for next week, where the full will would be read, about my father's face when he realized what his actions today had cost him, about my mother's practiced disappointment crumbling when she learned that her comfortable lifestyle depended entirely on my goodwill. Mostly I thought about Amanda, who had spent years watching our parents undermine and dismiss me, believing she would always come out on top. The right moment, I agreed, sipping my tea. That's exactly what Grandpa taught me to wait for. The week before the family meeting crawled by in a blur of angry calls and manipulative texts. My father's threats escalated from disarmament to legal action, though he never specified what laws I'd broken by refusing to give away my inheritance. My mother alternated between guilt trips and promises, suggesting we could compromise by me giving Amanda just 80% of everything. Amanda, predictably, had already started advertising her upcoming art gallery on social media, complete with photos of the building she planned to acquire with her inheritance. The building that, ironically, was one of the properties Grandpa had left to me. The morning of the meeting, I arrived early at the law offices of Matthews & Associates. Mr. Matthews, my grandfather's lawyer for 30 years, greeted me with a knowing smile. Everything's prepared, he said, patting a thick folder on his desk. Your grandfather would have loved this moment. He always said revenge is best served with paperwork. I smiled, remembering Grandpa's lessons about patience and documentation. Are the security cameras installed? Both in here and the lobby, he confirmed. Given your father's recent behavior, we thought it best to have everything recorded. My family arrived in waves. First came the curious cousins and distant relatives, then Aunt Margaret and Uncle Paul, who gave me supportive nods. Finally, my parents swept in, Amanda trailing behind them like a smug shadow. This is unnecessary, my father announced to the room. We can handle family matters privately. Like you handled things at Emma's graduation party. Aunt Margaret's voice cut through the tension. Several relatives shifted uncomfortably, no doubt remembering the viral videos of my father's outburst. Mr. Matthews cleared his throat. Shall we begin? My father tried to object, but the lawyer had already started reading. The first few items were standard, small bequests to various relatives, donations to charities. Then came the part they'd been waiting for. Regarding the primary estate, including Sullivan Manufacturing, all associated properties, and liquid assets, Mr. Matthews paused, looking directly at my parents. George Sullivan left detailed instructions about their distribution. My mother straightened in her chair. Amanda pulled out her phone, probably ready to post about her windfall. My father smiled smugly. The entire estate, Mr. Matthews continued, is left to Emma Sullivan, with specific conditions regarding its management and distribution. The room went silent. Then everything exploded. This is impossible, my father shouted, jumping to his feet. We saw the will months ago. It was just a trust fund. That was a preliminary document, Mr. Matthews explained calmly. This is the final version, properly witnessed and notarized 3 months before Mr. Sullivan's death. Amanda's phone clattered to the floor. But, my gallery. Furthermore, the lawyer continued, raising his voice slightly. The current residence occupied by Thomas and Diana Sullivan is included in this estate. The occupants have 30 days to either purchase the property at market value or vacate. My mother's practiced composure cracked. Vacate? But that's our home. Actually, I spoke for the first time, it's my home. Grandpa left it to me, along with everything else you tried to bully me into giving away. You planned this, my father snarled, taking a threatening step toward me. You manipulated your grandfather. Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Matthews interrupted sharply. I remind you that this meeting is being recorded, and given your recent documented history of violence toward your daughter, Any aggressive moves will have consequences. My father froze, finally noticing the security cameras. Additionally, the lawyer continued, Mr. Sullivan left a video message explaining his decisions. Shall we watch it? Before anyone could respond, my grandfather's face appeared on the conference room screen. He looked tired but determined, his familiar sharp eyes staring directly into the camera. If you're watching this, he began, then Emma has finally stood up to you all, just as I taught her to. I've watched for years as you dismissed her achievements, belittled her efforts, and favored Amanda despite her lack of direction or responsibility. Amanda started to protest, but Aunt Margaret shushed her. I built this company from nothing. Grandpa's recording continued. I know the value of hard work, dedication, and patience. Emma has all these qualities. She also has something else, the wisdom to wait for the right moment to show her strength. That's why she gets everything. Not because she's my favorite, but because she's earned it. My mother was crying now, whether from genuine emotion or practiced manipulation. I couldn't tell. My father had slumped in his chair, his face ashen. Amanda just stared at her fallen phone, her dreams of an easy payday crumbling around her. There's more, Mr. Mackey said as the video ended. Shall we continue? I nodded, thinking about Grandpa's words about patience and timing. The real surprise was still to come, the part where they'd learn exactly what kind of leader I planned to be. Yes, I said, pulling out my own folder of documents. Let's talk about the future of Sullivan Manufacturing. I have some changes in mind. The room felt charged with tension as I opened my folder. Inside were the plans I'd spent months developing, guided by Grandpa's mentorship during his final days. Sullivan Manufacturing needs restructuring, I announced. My engineering degree might be ashes, but my knowledge wasn't. Our technology is outdated, our processes inefficient, and our employee satisfaction is at an all-time low. You can't just walk in and change everything. My father exploded. I've run this company for 20 years. Into the ground, I replied calmly, sliding quarterly reports across the table. We've lost market share every year for the past 5 years. Employee turnover is at 60%. 3 major clients have already given notice they won't renew their contracts. Aunt Margaret picked up one of the reports, nodding slowly. George tried to tell you this, Thomas. You wouldn't listen. The first change, I continued, involves the executive board. Effective immediately, I'm appointing new directors with actual industry experience, not just family connections. My father's face reddened. He packed the board with golf buddies and Amanda's ex-boyfriends for years. Second, we're implementing the employee profit-sharing program Grandpa designed before you shelved it. Every worker gets a stake in our success. You'll bankrupt us, my mother cried, but Mr. Matthews was already distributing the financial projections. Actually, he interjected, these plans could double our profitability within 18 months. I turned to Amanda, who hadn't spoken since the initial shock. You wanted an art gallery. Fine. The company's starting an art therapy program for employees and their families. You can run it if you complete a proper business plan and get relevant certifications. For the first time in her life, Amanda looked at me with something other than contempt. You're giving me a chance. I'm giving you an opportunity to earn something, I corrected. That's more than you gave me. My father stood up again, but this time his anger had a desperate edge. You can't do this. I won't let you destroy my legacy. Your legacy? I laughed softly. Dad, look around. You're sitting in a dying company, in an office you don't own anymore, threatening the person who controls your future. What exactly is your legacy? The truth finally seemed to hit him. He sank back into his chair, decades of arrogance crumbling under the weight of reality. Now, I said, pulling out one final document, let's discuss your roles moving forward. My mother perked up, probably expecting a generous settlement. Instead, I handed them each a contract. You can stay with the company under my leadership, starting in entry-level positions. Learn the business from the ground up, like Grandpa did. Like I did during summer internships while Amanda was traveling through Europe on your dime. Entry-level, my mother whispered, horrified. But our lifestyle will need adjustment, I finished. The company mansion needs to be sold to fund the modernization project. You have 3 options. Take the jobs I'm offering, buy the house at market value, or start packing. The silence that followed was deafening. Around the table, relatives watched with varying degrees of shock and satisfaction. Aunt Margaret didn't bother hiding her smile. I'll do it, Amanda suddenly said. Everyone turned to stare at her. The art therapy program. I'll get the certifications, make a business plan. I want to earn it. I nodded, seeing a glimmer of something new in my sister's eyes. Maybe understanding, maybe respect, or maybe just the first real motivation she'd ever shown. Time to decide, I announced, standing up. You have until the end of the week. After that, the positions go to qualify outside candidates. As people filed out of the conference room, Aunt Margaret stayed behind. Your grandfather would be proud, she said, hugging me. You showed them mercy without weakness. He taught me well, I replied. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's giving people a chance to face their own failures and grow from them. 3 months later, Sullivan Manufacturing was transforming. My father, swallowing his pride, took the offered position in quality control. He discovered he actually enjoyed working with his hands again, like when he first started under Grandpa. My mother declined employment but found a smaller house within her new budget. She's learning to live without household staff, which Aunt Margaret calls character building. Amanda surprised everyone. She completed her business certification in record time, submitted a detailed proposal for the art therapy program, and now works harder than she ever has. Last week, she actually thanked me for not giving her the easy way out. The company is thriving. Employee morale has soared since implementing the profit-sharing program. Our technological upgrades have attracted new clients, and our stock price has jumped 30%. Sometimes, during quiet moments in what used to be my father's office, I look at the photo of Grandpa on my desk. Stay sharp, little fox, he'd said. He taught me that true leadership isn't about power or control. It's about vision, patience, and the wisdom to know when to strike and when to show mercy. I kept the diploma ashes in a small box on my shelf, not as a reminder of that day's pain, but as a symbol of how destruction can lead to rebirth. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about building something better from the ashes of what was lost.